My name is Greg Brady. I host the morning show on 640 Toronto. Some of you are just discovering the miracle of AM radio. Can I get a hand up for 640 listeners? It's a brand new technology. It's sweeping. The kids, they don't know AM, AI. They have no idea which is going to take over. It could be the one and not the other. It's a great crowd here tonight. I've seen so many familiar faces. I was down. I don't know how Daniel and Brian feel about this. I have a feel. I was down in the men's bathroom. I'm kind of old school that way. I went in the men's. And I did see somebody. I've lived here in the GTA 18 years, and I've seen somebody, or saw somebody I haven't seen in 7 years. And I'm like, you don't call, you don't text, because we all get busy. So most of you have busy lives. We have a great show that's kind of divided into sections tonight. I really appreciate that two, honestly, of I think the most authentic, and speaking of integrity-laced city councilors are here tonight, and I think it's wonderful that they are. You're going to meet them in a little bit, as well as one ex-Toronto City Councilor that I think the world of as well. But let's get going. You're going to have plenty of time for questions. We got mingling afterwards. The bar's going to stay, unlike most weddings, good or bad, or however long they last, the bar stays open during the speeches. I know it didn't during mine, and that was highly controversial, and somehow we made it through. I heard a lot from my in-laws about that. But I want to introduce you to our first panel, which will be just the three of us chatting back and forth. There's no formal mode to this. We haven't worked out a bunch of stuff ahead of time, but I think we all know how passionate we are about Toronto and how passionate we are about some of the things we're seeing right now. And we're like, that's not quite right. And I think that's a big reason Daniel has started this organization, IntegrityTO. So let me first introduce you to Toronto Sun columnist. And of course, he's also substacking. Is that a verb? There's worse things.
I think so.
He's substacking Brian Lilley from the Toronto Sun. Right. And we've, of course, you may have seen his video up there. I don't know. I would use more of him. I don't think his face is quite in that initial inaugural video enough, but it's something, and you've probably seen him at various concerts. He got a lot of big names to come out tonight. I know he went to Hamilton to see Sir Paul McCartney, and Sir Paul turned him down outright. And said,
Bucket
I'm not
list.
going to be part of this.
Bucket list, check. I've seen a Beatle.
Ringo, but you didn't, you aim big and you got Paul. But Daniel Tate is the president and CEO of IntegrityTO. So I'm going to...
Okay, while Greg gets seated, I got to say...
slide over here, and here I am again.
I said to my mother, who is of the age of McCartney and the Beatles, came over from the UK after Beatlemania, I said, yeah, Paul McCartney's playing in Hamilton, and she lives in Hamilton. I was like, do you want to go? We'll figure it out. I'll get you tickets. She says, no, he's too old. He should have stopped singing.
You should see how young he was on Friday night. This guy's 83 going on 33, no joke. John was with me. He did a 3-hour set.
And I heard it was
skipping
incredible.
A beat.
Yeah, heard it was incredible.
But could he be mayor for 4 years at age 83? I think that's a really important, of a small town, maybe, maybe outside of Liverpool, he could swing this. So we're going to chat for about 20 minutes here, back and forth, very open-ended. Again, there'll be audience Q&A throughout the night. But let me start with, and Brian can, obviously, he's a great questioner as well as an answerer. Let's start with, this is the old, who are you? Why are we here? What is your organization about? And go in any of those three directions you like. Dan, you go first.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here, and thank you to everybody for being in this room. I'm really humbled by this. And it really just started as me being a concerned citizen. I've lived in this city my whole life, born and raised. I was... grew up in North York and parts of Thornhill and other parts of the city. And I knew things were not going in a great direction in our city. And it all came to a head when I woke up one morning and I saw the headline that Olivia Chow has decided to rename Dundas Square to Sankofa Square. And the coffee hadn't kicked in, so I thought maybe this was like a Babylon Bee article or like an Onion article. And then my phone started blowing up. Everyone's like, have you heard what Chow is doing? She's unilaterally renaming our beloved Dundas Square. I saw the Tragically Hip there. I was there for the Raptors championship. Like, this is an important heritage place, destination with a name that resonates with all Torontonians. So that's really how it all started. Me and my friend John, who's in the audience, were like, we can't take this bending over. We got to do something. So we were like, okay, it's time for action. We put a petition together. It got a lot of traction. And again, shout out to John for putting together a very academic, beautifully written petition. And the rest is history.
The petition's on the desk. It's pretty small.
If anybody needs to do a workout, this is about 8 pounds. This is 35,000 names. When I brought this petition to executive committee at City Hall, they had no idea who I was. I walked into the Lions Den, basically. It was Perks, Cole, Moise, Fletcher, Bravo.
Excuse me, Councillor Perks, Councillor
the right honorable,
show
righteous
the proper level.
Chris Moise. And, that was a really eye-opening moment because I thought they would just accept it and say, thank you for all your work and we'll rethink it. I was a bit naive, obviously, going in there, but I came out of there feeling really terrible because they disrespected me in many ways. So I made sure the next day I went on City News and I did a 5-minute piece with Jamie Goodfriend. And then that got 50,000 views and everybody was like, Daniel, I'm really sorry what you had to go through, but this is not right. And I think that opened up a lot of eyes for a lot of people.
So that's a great introduction. We'll branch into more about what your plans are and why we're all here. Did he dodge the why are we here? He did. He's a regular, future politician already. That was a bit of a dodge. No, it's not. But Brian, you've watched this organization get some attention, get some prominence. Throw a couple snowballs in the snowball-safe area of the yard. And you've also followed Toronto politics and all politics for a long, long time. It sounds like Daniel's story is not, how would I put it, a unique one. There's a lot of people, regardless of ideology, that sometimes don't feel heard by politicians. Again, I think we have some very sincere, accountable ones here tonight that you're going to hear from in a little bit, but not everybody rolls with the same code in that front, and I think Daniel got stonewalled on a bunch of different levels.
Well, I watched that committee appearance that Daniel was talking about, and I watched Joey appear after that, and complete disrespect for both of them. It was, as someone that's watched committee meetings at the municipal level, provincial level, in multiple jurisdictions. So I've covered mostly Ontario and Quebec, but also I have covered Western provinces as well, covered federal politics. It was really, really disrespectful beyond anything that I'd seen. And it was disturbing. And I've long said, if you just keep patting people on the head, if elected officials just keep patting people on the head and saying, there, you don't understand, just run along now. You're fine. You don't understand. Guess what? People are going to rebel. Daniel's rebelling. And in the best way, I mean that. Daniel is rebelling and saying, we've had enough. The public will have genuine concerns about whatever politicians are doing. And it's incumbent upon elected officials to listen. You don't have to agree, but you have to listen. And Councillor Moise, who's my councillor, I think he's yours as well.
Don't remind me.
He's completely disrespectful.
Remember that time he called me a white supremacist?
Well, I'm sure he's called me.
And then I went on your show the next day.
I haven't paid attention to it. But, I've reached out to his office about local concerns and gotten nothing back but dismissiveness. Very disturbing, considering that when he ran, I was told by John Tory's team, this is a guy we can work with. This is a guy that you should get behind. He's far more reasonable than the previous councillor who's now at Queen's Park. And, well, that's another story. But, councillors need to, whether it's a councillor, an MPP, or an MP, they need to be willing to engage with and listen to their constituents. And on Toronto City Council right now, that just doesn't happen often enough.
So let me just follow up with you on this and then get to Daniel, because I'm sure everybody has their own thoughts of this, and this gives them time to process them as well. When you have to describe Toronto to somebody that's not from here, knowing your passion for the city, what are the things you say? What are the things you wish you could say? And what's fixable right now in just the city? We'll talk later in the evening about the other level of governments, and I'm not sure any of them are pulling their weight to make the city work for all of us right now. but what do you see and what's fixable in the short term in Toronto, Ontario?
So I'm originally from Hamilton, so genetically I'm predisposed to hate this city. But the fact is I love this city. I've lived here more than once. I've been here back for the last 7 years. And I love this city. And I keep telling people it's a great city. And they say, no, Toronto's a shithole. Toronto's this, Toronto's that. Like, Toronto doesn't work. I see it on the news. And it's like, yeah, we have problems, but they are fixable. Yep. Whether it's the encampments, whether it's the open drug use. You know, I was watching someone post online today. Someone had posted a photo again of someone sleeping on the subway car, taking up 4 seats. And the response was, well, you just don't believe in shelters and we should just have more shelters. We have doubled our shelter capacity over the last several years. We've doubled it. We've gone from about 4,500 to almost 10,000.
And that's not including the budget. The budget is tripled, quadrupled.
So that's the number of shelter beds we have. Plus we've got supportive housing. We've added and added and added, but we have other problems. And the staff and the mayor do not want to deal with that. And I can say the current mayor and the former mayor have not wanted to deal with that. Those are problems. We need to deal with that. If you are a tourist coming to this city, do you want to see someone smoking crack on the street corner while their friend urinates on the wall next to them as you're just walking down the street? I went 50 years of my life without seeing someone smoking crack, and now I see it constantly. We need to fix that.
Yeah. And Daniel, I think about that. You've talked about just like a passion for Toronto, a love affair with Toronto. When you grow up in London, when someone's like, hey, I got tickets to go see a show in Toronto, or your parents are going to take you to the X or go to a Blue, like when you're 8 and when you're 18 and when you're 28, you're thrilled. I still see all these people coming to Union Station and they're taking photos. They just walked out off the train and they're just mystified by even how tall the buildings are.
That was my mother last week.
Is that what? She skipped McCartney and just wanted to look at the buildings.
She came by to visit me.
But we all have this vision of this thing that we hope it can be again, but it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of heavy lifting. I would still say again, it takes all 3 levels of government. What do you envision, and when did you start to see this downward slide that made you get so active in this?
Well, I think the downward slide really accelerated after 2020. I think the last 4 years have been very turbulent for our city. There's been a lot of poor policy making, a lot of social and psychological contagion that has gotten us to this point. And what I mean by that is when you have city councilors who feel emboldened that they can disrespect and insult constituents, it speaks to the mindset that is pervasive in our institutions. The fact that certain city councilors and others just, it's a dystopian elitism that I experienced, and people see it. And we really need to have elected leaders who have respect for constituents, respect for the public purse, respect for the history and heritage of this wonderful city. And every day it feels like the people in power, not all of them, of course, there's some great ones here in the room, but a lot of those people just don't have that mindset. And I think for many years there's been a sort of cancel culture or bully culture that big parts of, the some call them the far left or the progressive left, et cetera, where if somebody disagrees with your position, you're entitled to bully them. You're entitled to insult them. And it worked for many years. And then they tried it on me, and I wasn't playing that game.
And if I can just... If I can jump in on what Daniel's saying there about people insulting them, it's that people are insulting you before they've engaged with you. It's one thing if I engage with you and I say, well, you're an SOB and you're this and you're that, and I'm insulting you and you insult me back. But I watched Daniel at that committee hearing, and I've experienced that myself. Look, I'm a member of the media with a big bloody megaphone. We buy ink by the barrel. I am, have a massive online following, and I still have, my own counselor want to insult me. Why? Why on earth would they do that? I have no idea. But that is the response. The immediate response is to turn around and insult the person that dares ask a question about why all the crack pipes are in the park across the street from my building that I have to walk through with my dog, that my neighbor's kids have to walk through. That, it's in the play park, that they're trying to climb on the jungle gym, and there's crack pipes everywhere.
Is that a struggle right now with municipal politics everywhere? And I ask that because I think that kind of behavior eventually, seeing what I saw running for the CPC in the spring, anything where you're sort of too out there, too over your skis, you're going to hear about it. And I don't mean in a bad way. You're not going to get slapped. You're just going to be like, hey, like, we do things a certain way as a team here. And my point is, many of these councilors have been around a long, long time, and they don't feel like they answer to anybody. There is no leader. Then I got to listen to the mayor about this. There's nobody that's sort of overseeing the project. There's just this councilor that's been there 24 years, this councilor that's been there 28 years. There's a lot of older guard, if you will, who keep getting
a lot
elected.
of older guard.
Okay, but
That's
they
an
keep
understatement.
getting elected. So the job is like, we can't out. The job is to beat them in an election. I'm just asking, Brian, if you think that's unique and doesn't happen as much in party politics, because I don't see it. Eventually, I think people do pick up the phone, and I do think they've got to respond, or the other MPs or MPPs make them look bad because they're the ones that are unresponsive.
I lived in Ottawa for 20 years. I never experienced that with any councillor, left, right, or center. I deal with politicians across the political spectrum at the provincial and municipal or provincial and federal level. And I don't experience that, but I do experience that with some people at City Hall. And I'm pretty shocked by it.
And you've obviously seen it too.
Well, I've seen some terrible things, because when it started with the Dundas thing, I was like, okay, I'm going to spend more time here. I'm going to see what's going on, because if this is happening to me, it must be happening to a lot of other people. I'm not just an anomaly. And I was right. I was going to committee meetings, and I was observing the committee members. I wasn't observing the deputants, because they came with the right heart. They cared about their city, but I was observing the committee members, people like Gord Perks, people like Alejandra Bravo, Paula Fletcher. And Perks, I remember one time he was playing video games while somebody was pouring their heart out about affordable housing. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe the arrogance that
somebody
exists.
was shopping also.
Yeah, Shelley.
Shopping, yeah.
Shelley Carroll was online shopping during. This was during the taxi. So these, they're trying to put forth more red tape to force taxi drivers who already have a hard time, right? Their cab licenses lost so much value, and city was trying to force them to like get a new car every like 7 or 8 years, and low emissions, whatever. And these cab drivers came pleading their case, like, my car is great, it might be older, but it's my livelihood. Shelley Carroll is on Amazon looking for blouses. And I was appalled. And I posted it immediately. And then $6 picked it up, and it got 800,000 views. This is what we have to do. It's about awareness. It's like, we have to put our councillors, and not just councillors, all elected officials, we need to make them accountable for their behavior.
And there are great ones.
There are great
ones. Make
ones.
that clear. There are great ones.
I agree.
But there are some folks that just do not believe that they're accountable to anyone.
I'll sort of move us towards the next panel in a minute or two, but your emphasis on who the next mayor is. Let our audience know why you think the mayor is a critical position, why you think the current mayor should not be given another 4-year term in 2026, and what has to happen as well. It's one thing to have a mayor, but Daniel and I have spoken about this on the radio. I think many of you have had your own conversations. The mayor can only do so much. Strong mayor powers only take you so far if you don't have at least a third and usually a few more of the council seeing the things that you want to do and supporting them. So this next election feels like a critical election to change the direction of Toronto. You've written as such.
So we don't just need a new mayor, we do need a new council. Don't worry, John. Don't worry, Parthy. I'm not saying we got to get rid of everyone. Not saying we got to get rid of everyone, but the mayor is still just one vote on most things. On strong mayor powers, that can change. Everyone in Toronto is, I couldn't possibly use strong mayor powers until it's something they want, and then they will. and I don't disagree with strong mayor powers. I think it's a valid thing. The mayor, unlike everyone else, is elected across the entire city. They should have a bigger say. It should not be, well, your vote counts as much as the person that represents one ward. But we do need a change on council overall. I've known Mayor Olivia Chow for about 20 years. As a person, I like her very much. We have a fine relationship, but I have, just been clear that I think on policy, she's wrong and she's focused on the wrong issues. I would say the same thing about former Mayor John Tory, who I've known about the same amount of time. It is just time for a change in the mayor's office at City Hall for someone that is going to move the city forward, as opposed to like this whole Dundas thing. Did you see that we had to change the name of Dundas Station because Dundas is an evil person and we can't possibly have his name on the station. So they put up a new sign last week saying TMU Station, Dundas Street. Like, if his
Don't want anybody to get lost. I mean,
Theater of the absurd.
if his name is so evil, why is it still there? But of course, they wouldn't rename Dundas Street because that would be too,
the money.
too costly. It would be too, controversial. So, but yeah, TMU Station, Dundas Street, and now there is a peer-reviewed paper coming out in the next few days from historians that says City Council was completely wrong. Dundas was an abolitionist on slavery, like those of us who are sane claimed, but the city just wanted to go down this route. We need a city that's or a council and a mayor that is focused on basic services. I'm sorry, but the garbage isn't picked up properly. The streets look like crap. The condition of the streets is are horrible. We pay high taxes in this city, and yet we're not getting basic services. And development charges are insane. I think it was, 10 years ago, it was $10,000. Now it's over $100,000. It's way above the price of inflation. We're pricing people out of the housing market in this city and pricing people out of being able to live here. We need to fix all these things, and we need a mayor and a councillor that will focus on those issues and making the economic engine of the province and the country work again instead of sputter again.
Okay. What?
Yeah.
We'll wrap on this question for this part of the panel and then mix things up a bit. But to Brian's point, Daniel, what does an ideal mayor possess in terms of character, qualities, and what would be the first things you would ask that mayor to do if they're elected in a year from now?
I think, several qualities that I believe our current mayor doesn't have, which is humility, which is leadership skills, which is having business skills. She's running a $19 billion enterprise, and she's not running it like it needs to be run. There's a massive amount of waste. There's a massive amount of spending into frivolous ideological projects. I would, if I was the mayor or if I was consulting the mayor, I would first say we need to do a deep audit of every single division to make sure that every single dollar of your money is being stewarded responsibly. And I'm willing to bet you're going to find hundreds of billions, if not even in the low billions of dollars of savings. There's a lot of waste. And I know this because I've put in probably 35 FOI requests in the last 6 months. I have invoices.
The FOI
I have
request.
invoices coming out of my ears, and the day will come when I present it. The waste is worse than you can imagine. It's a fact. I've seen invoices that are wildly inflated. And I'm not just talking about One Community Solutions, who got 40 mil on a single source bid for basically wandering around shelters wearing Crocs and ripped jeans. It's absurd. So when we see that example, and Justin does great work, I love reading his stories, but that again is just, to me, the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to uncover, and that's what the next mayor needs to do.
And if I can just give one quick example from my years. This is not a Toronto example, it's an Ottawa example, but from my years of covering municipal politics, Years ago, there was call for a line-by-line budget audit. Are we spending on the right things? And a councillor in Ottawa wanted to say, well, we've got to change the hours of the waiting pools. And he was hounded with other councillors sending Mr. Grinch to him. And the reason that he said this was they were opening the waiting pools at 8:30 in the morning. And he surveyed all the parents and he surveyed the lifeguards that are there and said, when do kids show up? 11. Okay, well, let's open it later and we'll save all that money because nobody's showing up at 8:30 in the morning. It's not warm enough. And that's a nice, sensible solution, but people just say, no, you can't change anything. No, we need to change things and we need to reconsider.
Culture change.
Are we using services the way that we should? Are they providing the services that we should? We need to ask those questions and have serious conversations about it, and we don't.
I think to the point these two gentlemen are getting, how many people own a business, run a department here? And do you ever have to watch your spending? Never, of course not. And we just don't do that. Why would you do that? Why would you look under the hood of the car?
Sometimes you have to lay off employees if they're not pulling up their weight.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not performing and, metrics driven, KPI driven, that's how you run a tight ship and a business that excels. We want excellent. If we want to be a city of excellence, we need government of excellence.
Okay. This is the point in the evening among several different chapters where I don't know how to put this beyond. We have to ask Brian to leave.
Get out of here.
It's not the first place he's been booted out of, and this is just
Been kicked out of bed.
okay.
Thanks, Brian.
And
Brian Lilley, everybody.
Brian Lilley.
Toronto Sun's finest.
So if I could welcome up our next three panelists, and I'll give them a proper introduction as well.